First question would be about your instrument or your musicianship, how you became a musician, why the trombone, and just a little bit about your education and maybe what happened after you picked up the trombone and said, oh yeah, this is it.
I actually started on percussion. And after 2 weeks of that,
Why?
why? That's because I wanted to play the drums.
Oh, okay, all right.
And after 2 weeks of that, my dad said, no, I don't want to hear any more of this around the house. He had another expletive, but I won't say it. And my dad was a clarinetist, and he said, I'm not going to have you play a woodwind instrument, especially clarinet. My brother played trumpet. And at the band store, there was a trombone for $50. And that's what we got. But
so he was okay listening to trombone practicing versus percussion.
Yes. Yes.
That's such a strange
Yeah.
choice, though.
he wanted to hear a melody, and my dad actually said this would be a good instrument for you because you have a really good ear. And sure enough, by the end of the week, I'd already learned 6 major scales, and I was playing arpeggios, and it was. I enjoyed playing the trombone. I enjoyed the sound it got. It would be interesting, though, during practice sessions in 6th and 7th grade. My mom has perfect pitch. So from one end of the house, I'd hear my mom going, that's flat, that's sharp, that's sharp. And then I'd hear my dad going, you're doing nothing with the phrase. And I remember I'm going, I'm in the 7th grade, for goodness sakes. You know, I'm like, come on, give me a break.
Give me some
here.
time.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
But that's how I got started on the trombone. And I just really took off with it and really enjoyed it. And by the time I was in the 8th grade, my dad was like, you need to have a professional horn. So that Christmas, I got a real, a valve instrument.
How much was a professional horn back then?
Well, back then, the one I wanted was $550 because I wanted a new one, My dad had found a really nice used Con 88H for $200, which would have been a better horn for me. But no, he gave in and bought me the new Con 88H. And yeah, I think it was $500 or $600 back then. Yeah.
So did you get to choose, or you have to order, or how did it work? You went into the shop and...
Being that my dad was a band director still at the time, and he worked, and we lived in Decatur, Alabama. So I'm a local product from around here. He went to a couple of band stores that he dealt with and said, this is what I want, and actually got it. So actually, I don't know what it cost. It cost him $500, but I think there were $800.
Okay.
But he got it for cost because he sold so many band instruments for his kids.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So your dad was the principal clarinet
He was.
of the Huntsville Symphony, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what is your Huntsville Symphony story? When did you join the symphony? And if you can remember, your very first show here?
Oh, yes. I joined the symphony for the first time in 1981 as a junior in high school. And it was quite an interesting audition story. I don't know if you want to hear that all.
Oh, yes, please, go right ahead.
So at the time, the Huntsville Symphony was what they would call an urban symphony orchestra. It wasn't regional yet. And they didn't really advertise in any type of musician paper, or they weren't union yet. They just advertised in the Huntsville Times. And I only knew about it because the principal trombone at the time was a local band director named Tommy Mitchell. And he told my dad about it. And he knew that I was playing trombone, and I was one of the top high school kids around. And at that time, there were 4, 5, or 6 high school kids in the orchestra. So I came and took the audition, and it was only me and an old man that was about 80 years old that played on a wooden mouthpiece, which I was very intrigued by, and a young college kid whom I knew he was a couple of years older than me, and he was a freshman in college, and I knew him from auditioning at Allstate. And so I auditioned, and they didn't tell me anything. If it hadn't been for Tommy Mitchell coming to me the next day and saying, hey, you won. He came to the house being a band director, like friends with my dad. I didn't get a letter until 3 months later. The audition was at the end of May, and at the beginning of September, I get this letter that said, hey, welcome to the Huntsville Symphony. We'll see you next Monday. And that was my beginnings with the Huntsville Symphony.
And what was the first program you played?
Shostakovich 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice start to a
It
career.
was
Yeah.
a nice start. It was a big, big undertaking for the orchestra back then. The conductor back then was Marks Pales, and we rehearsed every Monday night. And we did 10 Mondays, no,
So
9
once a
Mondays in
week.
a row.
that
Once
is,
a week.
Yeah, yeah.
9 Mondays in a row, and then we would have a dress rehearsal on Saturday and a Saturday night concert. And yeah, it was a huge undertaking for that orchestra. Marks was trying to get the orchestra to grow some by getting these bigger pieces, because I remember also that year we did Symphonic Metamorphosis, and we did Tchaik 5. I left the orchestra in '83 because I graduated and I went to LSU, so I moved and I resigned from the orchestra. I was at LSU a couple of years. I came home to help take care of my ailing dad. He got a little better, and I went to Alabama. I never finished college. I had a year position with the Alabama Symphony after that. And then after that, I came home for a year and helped with my dad again. And then the bass trombone position opened up, and Tommy was still principal
Here in
trombone.
Huntsville.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And he told me about it, and I won that position. That was a little more, Tavo was here, and it changed the way the orchestra was doing things. Tavo had changed it from, every Monday night to a week before the concert. They had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night rehearsals. Or no, Tuesday, Thursday, and then the week of the concert, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday concert. He was definitely moving it towards, we need to be more like a regional professional symphony orchestra. And the pay had gone up significantly, because I think I forgot to mention my pay was $14 a service in high school. And at that time, the pay was almost $50.
What could you buy for $14?
I couldn't buy anything. But I got $140. In fact, I made twice as much for my mileage check from driving from Decatur. I made a $140 check for playing, a $280
So you probably
check
had
for
better
driving.
gigs than the Huntsville Symphony back then.
Around here,
Being
no.
more- No?
No.
That was it? Yeah.
No, not at that time, no. And I was very fortunate to get to play some of those pieces, especially as a high school. And to play, in an orchestra that could attempt to play these pieces and we could do a respectable job of them by the time we got to the concert. And of course, especially like doing Shostakovich 5, as a high schooler, that second trombone part, that's in alto clef. So I've got to, I knew how to play alto clef, but actually doing it with a piece with the orchestra is a different experience than sitting down in the method book and playing it. So it was exciting for me to get to do that. But yeah, and then I got in 1990 as bass trombone, and I became principal a year later. I was relaying the story. I don't know who, I can't remember, there was a guy that was, he was the Sousa recreator. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes.
I can't remember his name, but he was coming to conduct a concert.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wanted the principal trombonist to play Bluebells of Scotland.
Okay.
Tommy didn't want to do that. And Tavo said, if I can't count on you to play solo,
Then
you can't be principal.
Yeah.
So we swapped, and I became principal trombone. And
Thanks to Sousa.
Thanks to Sousa and Bluebells of Scotland. And I played that. That went fine. And then a couple of years later, Tavo started the corps. And he made all the principals re-audition. And not everybody kept their job. And this was before we were union, so he could kind of do that. And then a couple of years later, he made me re-audition again. I remember asking him, "Are you unhappy with me?" He's like, "No, I just want to do it." Okay. So
you're probably holding the record for auditioning
yeah,
the same orchestra the most
yeah.
times.
I've taken 4 or 5 auditions, yeah. And then I was here. I was principal trombone till '07, and I had gotten very busy with Nashville and playing with the Nashville Symphony quite a bit and doing a lot of work. So I decided at that time that I would leave the orchestra. So in '07 I resigned, and that was under Mikhail Prieto, Carlos Prieto. And then you came in, and then work got a little less for me. And then I think I played a fairly decent audition on both tenor and bass for you.
And now you're back with us as principal trombone,
That's
which
right.
is great. What else are you doing nowadays outside of Huntsville?
I'm principal trombone in Chattanooga. I'm principal trombone in the Augusta Symphony, and I hold those chairs. I'm still a pretty high call for the Nashville Symphony on both tenor and bass. I sub with Louisville here and there, and I sub with Grant Park in the summer at times.
That sounds like a full schedule, but do you do anything else other than playing the trombone? Anything you do for fun and it's not music?
Yes, I'm a huge model railroader.
All right.
I like trains, real and models, but I have a massive model railroad that I had somebody else built for me because I'm the guy, if you want things destroyed, you call. I mean, when I'm done with it, you'll go, wow, I never imagined it being destroyed like that. Yeah, so I have a really nice model railroad that I had a father and son team build for me, and we're good friends, and I go to train shows. And
so you keep buying stuff and adding to your... Yeah.
I have, no kidding, I mean, and this is over the years, I have $250,000 worth of trains. Wow. But it's over 40 years of collecting. So, yeah. Wow. And
I never knew that about you.
Yeah.
See, this is why it's good to do these interviews. The final question is a little bit more broad and general and maybe a little bit philosophical about the future of classical music. I mean, based on your own career and based on what you see and hear with young players you might be teaching or playing alongside, do you think we're going to be here in 20, 30, 50, 100 years, and are we going to be playing these pieces? You know, there's always these doomsayers who say like, classical music is done, 6 feet under, don't even talk about it.
They're wrong, 1,000%. Mozart's been around for Beethoven. We're still playing Beethoven. We're still playing Brahms. We're still playing Tchaikovsky. I mean, we're still playing Beethoven, Bach. I mean, those pieces are going to be around. I do think it will be less. I mean, as we've seen the orchestra grow, we're doing more things like movie scores, more pops, integrating other ideas in so we can play those pieces. But they'll always be there. I think the days of a symphony orchestra putting on a classical concert, and that's pretty much all they do once a month, I think those days are over. But I think there'll always be room for it, and I don't think, I'm sorry, you listen to Mahler, you listen to Bruckner, music like that and people who enjoy it moves them to a point of there's not anything else that can do that. I mean, I don't want to insult Beatles fans, but I don't think in 100 years you're going to know much about the Beatles, but you're still going to be listening to orchestras playing Brahms and Beethoven and Mozart and Bruckner and Mahler.
I love the Beatles, but amen to that.
Yeah, I love the Beatles too. I think and they're inventive, but they're not inventive anywhere to the point of the composers I just, and I mean I listen to a lot of pop music. I'm a big R&B fan. There's a group called Tower Power I love listening to, and they can stir me, and I can listen to them, and that's really great. But nothing gets inside me more than, I've had the privilege of playing Mahler 3 twice, and I'm ready to do it again.
And you're trying to convince me to do Mahler 3.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
And I will never tire of playing, any Mahler, frankly. But Mahler 3 has that massive trombone solo in it, which I love to play. And as I'm playing it's stirring me, And some of it's hard to get through just because of the emotions it brings. Beatles are never it's not going to do that. Not for me.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Prentiss.